Hello folks, I'm back with another firearms impression. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm really looking forward to showing you this one. This is nothing new. You've already seen this pistol before, and the reason why I got this pistol is because I've been trying to look for another striker fire pistol, and unfortunately, a couple times I had buyer's remorse, and I didn't want to spend money on a pistol that I wouldn't like or something of that nature. I've also wanted to take a look at what was out there on the market, look at other pistols, but unfortunately, I was unable to see certain pistols that I was interested in, particularly the Steyr and the PPQ, and I'm going to narrow it down between those two. Granted, if I can just take a look at those in person. I've looked at the PPQs a lot, but I have not looked at the Steyrs, and that's what I wanted to see. So this is something that you've already seen. You've already seen this. This is the Glock 34. It's been around in the competition circuit. It's a very popular pistol, and this is the Gen 4 version of the Glock 34. I do like this because I tend to like pistols that are competition slash tactical pistols, and that's what I've been getting into lately. Also, because of all the striker fire pistols that are out there, I couldn't really make up my mind, and I didn't want to rush into a bad decision. So I went back to hammer fire pistols. I've been looking at double action, single actions, or 1911s. So therefore now I've finally bought a striker fire, and I haven't bought a striker fire in such a long time. And believe it or not, all my striker fire pistols are Glocks. I have 4 striker fire pistols, and they are all Glocks. Call me a fanboy or an enthusiast. It is what it is. It just happens that the Glock pistol seems to work well for me, and like I said, I've been shooting it a long time, and it seems to be my go-to striker fire pistol that I'm most comfortable with. I decided to get this in Gen 4 because there was so much hype going on with Gen 5s. Gen 5s currently are in the 17 model and the 19 model, and it's been really everybody seems to be running over to that particular pistol. I decided to pick the Gen 4 version. They don't have the Gen 5 version for the Glock 34 as of yet, but it's probably forthcoming. But there are certain things that I liked about the Gen 5 pistols that I saw at the store, and there are some things I don't like and some things I wish they retained. Let's start with this pistol. First of all, the first thing you notice with the Glock 34 is you notice that cut in the top slide. I tend to like the long slides for targeting and also for competition realm, which I'm trying to get into maybe next year. But this lightning cut, some people describe it as, it enables that when the slide is cycling back, it's able to keep the slide on track so you can get better target acquisition. And it's also a good thing for when a lot of competition shooters, they're basically are hand loaders. So they'll load their rounds for a different bullet weight or whatever the case may be. So this slide this is cut out here, lightens the slide enough so that it would be able to recycle back, and we would also help the bullet weight as far as bullet weight where it goes back and forth, and that way your slide will be able to enable proper feeding of loads instead of any type of malfunctions. Going over some of these features, I forgot to do a safety check. I don't normally do safety checks, but this is probably the first time I did one in my videos. Yeah, as you see, it's clear. I never bring any firearms on camera with any rounds near it. One of the things that I like about this particular model in Gen 4. Uh, in Gen 4, it has a nice stippling here, and also with the beaver tail safe. Well, I'm used to saying beaver tail safety because I use a 1911 a lot, but most of your striker fire 1911s and so forth, they are now equipping a lot of their firearms with beaver tails, whether it's affixed or whether in Glock's case, a beaver tail that you can put on the back of here to prevent slide bite. These come in four different back straps that they give you. They give you a large and a medium in beaver tail, and they give you a large and medium and one without a beaver tail extension. And that's a good plus because a lot of people have various different hand sizes. So it would enable people to at least work out what they would like to feel for their grip and so forth. The thing that is controversial about the Gen 4s and also the Gen 3s is that there are these finger grooves right here. Now, what's going on now with the Gen 5s, they removed these. They removed these finger grooves, and a lot of people were very happy about that. The other feature that the Gen 5s have is they have a ambidextrous safety. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering why Glock in the first place put these finger grooves on the front of their firearms. Well, from what I recall back in the early 1990s when the Gen 2s were out, the Gen 2s were similar to, I would say, what the Gen 5 went back to, where these finger grooves were not on here. So a lot of officers like myself, what happened was we were transitioning from revolvers over to the Glock pistols at the time. And a lot of us who weren't used to the Glock pistol or a semi-automatic pistol, we wanted to get a better grip. So a company called Hogue came out with these rubberized grips, and it was a sleeve that you had to fight with and put the sleeve on. But the one thing the sleeve had, they had these finger grooves in there. You could modify it, probably cutting some excess off, but at the time, that's what we use for grip. We like to have the finger grooves, and I have hands that are perfect for the finger grooves. But Glock saw this and they incorporated finger grooves in their pistols, starting with, I believe, the Gen 3s, and as you see, it's carried on to the Gen 4s. So some people like the grips, some people don't. If you have a meatier hand, you're not going to be able to get in between these finger grooves like I am. Some people's fingers are a little fatter, and their fingers might come across the ripple here, and what would happen is they will be uncomfortable shooting. So that is one of the reason why I think that Glock went with the finger grooves, is because during that time with the Gen 3s, that's what was going on. Other features with the Glock, one thing that I really, outside of this laser cut here, one of the things that I really liked about the Glock here is that I noticed when I first got this pistol and it's nothing new, but it's the slide release. And when you pull back the slide, it's there. And this is actually the first pistol, whether it's a 1911 or whether it's any other striker fire pistol that I fired, for the exception of the XDM. This is the only slide release I was able to pull the slide release like that. My thumb can reach that. Of course, the XDM and the SIGs, they're basically their slide releases are back here, but for a pistol like this that has the slide at thumbs at full extension, this is the only slide release I was able to actuate. Unfortunately, some people are not happy with this. Some people are. It all depends on what you like about this particular slide release. Uh, One of the biggest features that I liked about, I'm breaking this down a little bit, so, and I'm not going to break this down fully. One of the best features that I really like about the Glock pistols is this double spring area here. Now, there are some competition shooters or other shooters do not like this captive spring area where it's like the dual captive spring. A lot of people don't like it. Some people do. Some people don't care. I'm one of those people that particularly like this particular spring setup. And the reason being is because when I got a Glock 27 and a Glock 30, when I broke that down, I noticed that this spring system works very well with the Glock, and it really helps out with recoil and help out with the function of cycling around into the chamber. So it's a good feature. I think it's a good technology, but of course everybody is up to their has their own opinion about it and have a different technology that they would like to use. I've seen people put different spring assemblies in there, but it's something that I really liked and something that I had to really bring up. I said I wasn't going to break this down further, but I have to. I just noticed something here. One thing, a lot of people, some people know, a lot of people know, but I learned in training that how you're able to check to see if your firing pin during cleaning is working properly. And as you see, this is the firing pin block right here. As you see, you don't hear anything when you shake this, but when you do depress this, you hear a little tink sound in there. I don't know if the camera picked up on it. So when you hear that tink sound, that sound is basically telling you that your firing pin block is working. So this is where the firing pin block is in its safe mode, and this is when it's depressed. That's when your firing pin can be actuated. And as you see, your firing pin is sticking out right here in the part right over there. So that's one of the things that I learned when working with. I'm not a gunsmith by any means, but the little training that I had that to let you know that everything's working properly. You should be able to hear it when you shake it, and you should be able not to hear it when it's not depressed. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring out. Probably a lot of people already know that, so it is what it is, but there are other people that don't. And there's a lot of things about the Glock 34 that's pretty interesting. And the funny thing is, a lot of people have issues with the original sights that come with their Glock pistols. Now with the Glock 34, I guess you can see the adjustable sights here. They're pretty decent sights, actually. They're pretty decent sights, and you know, your regular front sight. But I will tell you one problem with the front sight. And the problem with the front sight is that if you are doing holster drills, this thing gets chewed up very fast, and you'll start getting these little burrs or whatever that are sticking up. So if you're doing like a lot of holster drills, it does get chewed up fast, and it'll kind of mess up your sight picture a little bit. But all in all, they're pretty fair sights. I'm not going to say they're very adequate, but they're pretty fair sights. And that's why people swap those sights out real quickly. These rear sights are not bad. They're not bad at all. I don't mind them. A lot of people do not like the square notch in the back. Well, I've been shooting these guns for so long that it doesn't matter if I have the square notch in the back with the one dot in the front. So I'm just so used to it. I've never ever replaced sights on any of my Glocks or any of my other firearms because I'm pretty much a stock person. I keep everything basic. So these sites are pretty adequate, but look, you could put fiber optics here. Most competitors do it, and you can put blacked out sites. And just maybe I might do some modifications. Who knows? I usually don't like to mess with things that are stock, and I might do something with the trigger. The trigger is supposed to be at 4.5 pound pull. Um, I don't have a liming gauge or anything of that nature. A lot of other people have done the trigger checks with these, but I'm going to leave this in this stock configuration for now. But I am very much considering doing some upgrades, and I've been looking and talking to other friends online, and they have mentioned to me about the Apex trigger. So maybe in the future you'll see an update with me showing the Apex trigger and maybe some different sights on here. I pretty much like to keep things simple. For me, if I'm buying a firearm, it's got to work right out the box. And there's an old saying that's out there. It's KISS. It's not the rock group. It's the term keep it simple, stupid. And that's what I like to do. I like to keep my firearms pretty much simple. One thing I didn't get, I was kind of trying to pick between this and the MOS version. Now, the MOS version was not available at my dealer and wouldn't be at for a while, so I decided to pick this up anyway. The MOS version is very good, and I wish it did have that. And my Glock 41, which is right here, this is the MOS version. The MOS version stands for Modular Optic System, and I have the Vortex Venom sight on here. So I wish it did have that on there, but it's okay. There's one thing I noticed on that's different between the MOS version and this particular one is that the rear sight, if you look on the side here, the rear sight, this is on the Glock 34, is pretty much right about here. It's pretty decent. Now, if you look at the rear sight on the Glock 41, you see it extends a little further. Getting my pens mixed up as a pointer. It extends really far back, and that is to allow the cut for the modular optic system on here. Both of these, as you see, are pretty much similarly alike. The one major difference is that this does not come with a extended slide release like on the 34. But both pistols are very well and very suited for competition. And there's not that much difference in width and or length. I didn't measure it. I didn't do the stats on it. You could go online and look that up or look at somebody else's review. But I don't think there's that much difference. Maybe a little bit longer. I'm trying to put it as far back as I can to line these up, but there's not that much difference in the length and width. It might be a millimeter off or whatever the case may be. But it's like I said, I tend to like competition pistols. Getting back to the Glock 34, the only thing I could say that might be some people get alarmed at is some SWAT teams do use this firearm, but I was watching a Nut and Fancy video, and there was a malfunction with this gun, and it turned out where these guys are, I think Nut and Fancy, they're from California or somewhere, but there was some debris that got into this relief cut, and that's what made it malfunction. The debris was a pebble. and the pebble stopped the whole action of the slide. So when he dropped it on the ground, maybe a pebble got in between there and it stopped the action of that. This would so when you're considering having this for certain applications you want to do, you want to make sure if you're going out somewhere in the field that you don't use this firearm for in areas where you can have the high probability of getting some type of debris or dust or anything. You're better off sticking with something like this where everything is shielded and protected at to its best possibility. But this, I don't mind this at all, and I'm not going to be using this, for applications of going on the street with this or anything. This is strictly like a range toy for me, competition gun for my future endeavors. But another thing that I really want to bring out is that I've also pretty much seen guys that use this as a carry weapon. And believe it or not, some of these people that are carrying this are using this as an in the pants appendix carry. I've watched this one video where the guy had this with a light. He had a light on here, and he had a special made Kydex holster, and he had this carrying this appendix. And this is a fairly large gun, but really, it's really the same size of a 1911 full-size gun. It is exactly the same size as a 1911 gun. I didn't bring one out here to measure it, but Mr. Guns and Gear, he put a 1911 on top of this, and it was exactly the same size as this gun. So it's not, it is doable for you that you can carry this concealed, but it wouldn't be my first choice for concealed carry. Some people, the one person I saw, he carried this in a Kydex holster, but in the 3 o'clock position. So it can be done. Most 1911s are carried in a 3 o'clock position. But yeah, there are a lot of people now, even at the gun shop I go to, there are a lot of people now are carrying these appendix style. And it's interesting. It's interesting. I carry shorter guns appendix style. I don't think I'll be carrying this size. Well, I'm just going to wrap this up right now because there's nothing that you really don't know about this firearm that you haven't seen in other videos. And I really wanted to have one of these, being that it's my only 9mm striker fire pistol. And like I said, there are a lot of firearms out there that is really hard for me to pick from. And I didn't want to go on the hype train with people going with the Gen 5. I stuck with pretty much Old Faithful here, which is the Glock in a Gen 3 or a Gen 4 configuration. And I pretty much like everything that I told you about it, especially with the finger grooves. But to each his own. And I just like to say, happy shooting. Take care of yourselves.